Hey everyone, welcome back to Disciples Path. I'm Emily. Today's video is going to be a little different because King Abimelech has been living rent-free in my head since March Come Follow Me, and I need to talk about it. Because the more I think about these chapters, the more I'm convinced this man was exhausting. Ugh, this guy, you'll see. This man keeps acting shocked and innocent while suspicious things keep happening around him. The first time we read about this guy is when Abraham and Sarah are returning from Egypt and are looking to find a place to settle down. So Abraham meets with King A to see if they can have a friendly agreement. Abraham has been told by God previously to tell people that Sarah is his sister because it was common back then for men to kill the husbands of really beautiful women and take those women. I mean, I guess it was cultural and he was a king, so I'm sure he felt like he could do whatever he wanted. So I'm not going to dive too deep into that part of it. But I mean, Sarah was around 90 years old and childless, so I'm not sure what the king had in mind when he decided he wanted her. I have a theory that he looked at unmarried, childless Abraham and all of his wealth and his unmarried, childless sister and thought, hey, if I have her, then when Abraham dies, because he's old, I can inherit all of his stuff. I don't know. Maybe? Anyway, the next thing we read is God coming to the king in a dream, telling him to give Sarah back to Abraham because he's her husband, or else God will kill him. The king is like, oh crap, I didn't touch her. You can't punish me for anything since I didn't do anything. I didn't know. God's like, sure, right, just give her back. So the king's all offended with Abraham and pretends like his feelings are hurt about the whole thing. But wait, the way the scriptures tell the story, you might assume Sarah was only there for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, but no. The chapter ends by saying that the other women in the household were finally able to conceive after she leaves because God had been keeping them from getting pregnant. So, how long would it take for the king's household to recognize that none of the women were getting pregnant? Not a few days, probably not even a few weeks. We're talking months that the king was holding Sarah. Minimum. Then, this is the part that makes me crazy. Abimelech is trying to smooth things over with Abraham and gives him servants and flocks and 1,000 pieces of silver. He looks at Sarah and tells her to use the 1,000 pieces of silver to buy herself a veil so no other men can see how gorgeous she is. Excuse me? Gross. Why don't you just learn how to stop stealing beautiful women just because you're king? Ew, Abimelech. Ew. Anyway, Abimelech tells Abraham he can settle down wherever he wants, so everything seems okay for a while. Then, sometime later, Abimelech pays a social call to Abraham or something. He starts out with, God is with thee. Abraham is prospering, and anyone can see it. Maybe the king feels threatened by that success. But he talks with Abraham and is like, hey, we're friends, right? We got no beef, right? And Abraham's like, yeah, we're good. And Abimelech is like, you'll be honest with me, right? And my son and my grandson, right? I've been so nice and good and generous with you, so we're friends, right? And Abraham is like, absolutely. But now that you're here, I just want you to know that your servants were fighting with my servants over a well I built, and your servants took it over violently. That's not great for me. And Abimelech is like, what? I never heard anything about this. I had no idea. Right. So, anyway, Abraham and the king make a covenant promising that Abraham's well will be left alone. Abraham even pays the king for the well that he built with 7 ewe lambs. There were enough witnesses around that would be able to confirm that Abraham built the well and paid for it as well. So they shake on it, and as far as we know, no other significant interactions happen between Abraham and the king again. Fast forward something like 60 plus years. Abraham has passed away. Isaac had been away for many years. When he comes back to Gerar, we don't know if this King Abimelech is the same one that Abraham dealt with. It could be his son or even his grandson in charge now. But it seems that whoever this king is, he hasn't learned from past mistakes. Rebekah is very beautiful, and Isaac also identifies her as his sister. They were cousins, so it's not too much of a stretch. We don't have scripture saying the king was interested in Rebekah, just the local men. But Abimelech was still aware of who these new residents are. And so one day he's like peeping out his window and he sees Isaac and Rebekah sporting together, as the scripture says. Were they kissing or something? Whatever it wasn't something siblings would be doing together. The king is upset, and it's understandable that he would be concerned about something like this. But then he has to open up his fat mouth. He's like, why didn't you tell me she was your wife? This could have been a big problem for me, because what if one of the men around here just took her and casually slept with her? Ew! Then he's like, thou should have brought guiltiness on us. What? Well, King Bimi tells his people to leave Rebekah alone. Isaac prospers, flocks grow, etc., etc. But eventually, the people of the area are jealous of Isaac, and Bimi tells Isaac that he's taking up too much room and he needs to move further away. Unfortunately, all the wells Abraham built had been filled in by the local people. I mean, why? You'd think they'd want to use them. Whatever. So, Isaac moves further away and starts to unbury his dad's wells. But then the herdsmen of the area start fighting with Isaac's servants over the wells again. Isaac, ever the peacemaker, ends up having to move 3 times because of the disputes over the wells. But he's finally left alone. After a while, here comes King Bimi, his friend Ahuzath, and Pitchhole, the chief captain. Social call? No idea. Isaac is concerned. He says, hey, what's up? You already sent me away before. Is there a problem? Bimi's like, you're doing so incredibly well. Getting strong, so like, promise you won't come attack us? We haven't hurt you. We've been nothing but good to you. We sent you away in peace. So Isaac, the patience of this man, I tell you, he makes a feast. He promises the king that he has no ill intentions. Then Bimi goes away. Right after, Isaac's herdsmen are like, hey, we found water. And that's the last we hear about King Abimelech, whether it was one guy or a whole dynasty of dramatic, manipulative men pretending they had no idea what was going on around them. Honestly, exhausting. Anyway, apparently I needed to get that out of my system. I feel better now. I'll see you next time.